Hello and welcome to the sixth part of this series of videos explaining how to make a maze game in GameMaker. So this is the second level now. So you saw me make the first level, or room 1, in all the 5 previous episodes. But this is room 2. It's a very simple room for now. But in this one I'm going to actually start creating some obstacles or some enemies for our player to create the game to add a certain level of difficulty, add a bit of difficulty to the game. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the sprites over here, as I normally do. I'm going to create a sprite for my enemy. So I'm going to go to create, sprite. I'm just going to call it sprite enemy, very creatively. I'm going to go to edit image. I'm just going to draw a very basic shape. Get rid of that box, don't need that. A very basic shape over here. I'm going to make it purple. And I'm just going to use the polygon tool again, and I'm just going to make a sort of triangle like that. There we go, that'll do. Then I'm going to go to my objects. I'm going to right click, create an object. I'm going to choose the sprite I just created. There we go. I'm going to name it object enemy. And I'm going to go to my events over here. I'm going to add a create event. So as usual, this is the first bit of code that runs when this object is placed in a map or in a room. So for this, all I'm going to do is I'm going to create a variable. I'm going to call it enemy speed. So this is how many pixels a second the enemy is going to move. So enemy speed, I'm going to set that to, I'll say 5. And I'm going to have it facing up. So I'm going to create a variable called facing. I'm going to set that to equals up. I'm going to put up in speech marks. So enemy speed is going to be equal to 5. And facing equals up. There we go. So I'm going to leave that like that. It is giving me this warning there. All that means is just that I haven't used those variables yet. But that's fine. I'm going to use them after. So I'm going to go now to my step event. And if you remember, these step events are the events that happen on every single frame of the game. So this game's going to be running at 60 frames a second. So this will happen 60 times a second. So in the step window, I'm going to now basically do what we did with our character. We're going to create a collision event, because what's going to happen is I'm going to put some of these objects, enemies in, so you can see. Put one here, put one here, I'll put one here. We'll have one more over here, just for fun. Oh, there, like that. I like that. And what this is going to do is I want these to move up. And then when it hits the wall, I want it to go down. So we're going to have to do collision detection like we did with our player, and basically check to see if it's about to bump into the wall. And if it's about to bump into the wall, then it backs off, it goes back down, it heads in the other direction. And when it goes down, again, if it thinks it's about to, or if it checks that it's about to bump into the wall, instead of bumping into the wall, it will just go in the opposite direction. So it should just keep going up and down forever. So I'm going to go on to the code for this object. So again, like I said, very similar to what we did before. I'm going to go if brackets place meeting. Now, we're not going to be checking, or we're not going to be changing the x variable, because these objects are going to go up and down. So we're going to leave x as it is, and I'm going to say y plus enemy speed. So that's our y variable. So the player's actual y location plus the enemy speed. So we're checking if the current location plus 3 pixels or 5 pixels, I think I set it out actually. Yeah, plus 5, is that going to end up in it bumping into the wall? So I'm going to say, comma there, object underscore wall. Okay, so if place meeting xy plus enemy speed object wall, and we'll say if that does happen, then we're going to then check to see if the player is facing up. So if facing equals up, Well, now we want them to be facing down. So facing equals down, and put in speech marks. Down. And the other way around, we're going to say else if. So if they're not facing up, we're going to check to see if they're facing down. So else if facing equals down, and if they are, we're facing now equals up. So just to explain what we've got so far, we've got close that if statement there. That. So we've got an if statement that checks if we're about to bump into the checks if the spike, the enemy, is about to bump into the wall. If it is, okay, we're going to choose this variable that says facing, and that's going to be going from facing up to facing down. And if it's not facing up at the moment, it checks if it's facing down, and if it is, because it's facing up. So all this is going to do is going to flip the direction it's going to be traveling in. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to say after this, so after it's done this, we're going to check now. So if facing now equals up, then we're going to make the y variable go down to y equals y minus enemy speed. And if we are facing down, so if facing equals down, facing. So if facing equals down, just do the opposite. So we say that y equals y plus enemy speed. So I'll just check that that works. I think it will, but we'll see. So we'll run that, and obviously this is room 2, so I'm just going to have to very quickly complete room 1. You can avoid this, actually. You can just change the level that comes first. But we've only got 2 levels at the moment, so it's not that big of a deal. This way, this way, this way. We should be on room 2 now, and you can see, so the spikes are going up and down, and when they reach the wall, they switch direction. And then I'm going to just go through these. So this looks good. However, one problem we've got is that these actually don't pose any risk to the player at all. It means nothing. So what we want it to do is that when the player touches one of these enemies, he goes back, or she, it's just a green circle, isn't it? But the player goes back to the start of the level. And that's really, really, really easy to do. So we're just going to go back to our object player, so our player object. We're going to go to add event. We're going to make it a collision event with the enemy object. So this will basically only run this code if it bumps into the enemy. And we just say the x variable, so its x coordinate is going to be set to x start, semicolon, and the y variable is going to be set to y start. And so the y start and the x start are basically variables that are used to store where the player was at the start of the level. So I'm just going to go to the rooms over here. And like I said, if you click on this button here, we can actually just shift room 2 up to the top. So room 2 is going to actually play first. So that'll save us having to complete room 1. Obviously, I'll flip those back afterwards. But when you're just testing the game, you don't want to be going through all the levels just to get to the level that you're on. So this should be a bit more difficult now. So if I dodge that one, there you go. Nope, you got me. So there we go. I think I might have actually made the speed on this a bit too fast. There you go, got it. All about timing. There we go. There we go. And this one's a bit nasty because I've put it there. There we are. And now, because I've moved room 1 to run after room 2, if I click on this, because we just told the code to take us to the next level, it should actually take me to level 1. And there we go. And that is how we create objects that act as enemies or obstacles in our game.